Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a Wild Hunt Wednesday, and we're going to be covering a new deck called Thriving. Now, I created this deck because it's the end of the season. We're just going to try some stuff out, and if for nothing else, sometimes you got to fake it till you're making it. At the end of the season, finding a way to thrive in Gwent can be difficult, especially if you're kind of burnt out. So, here's a new weird deck you can try some stuff out on. Plenty of ways to tweak this, but this is what I like. This is a true mid-range deck. I think we've kind of had that word bandied about a lot without anyone really explaining what they meant by it. But for me, true mid-range means no fours and no really top-heavy cards. So here we're running from 5 provisions to 10 provisions. That's our max, that's our min. So everything we're playing has pretty good value. Lots of Thrive cards in here, lots of removal. Some pretty cool stuff you can do with this. So obviously Larva is a great value. Cyclops are really fun, really underutilized. You get the 4 points out on the board, and then you get to destroy a unit and damage an enemy by that power. So because we're using Thrives, we can kind of tweak this to get right to the exact number that we want and do that damage. It can be really good, I find, with like Wild Hunt Riders for 4 damage, or to use Thriving units to get max power. You can also use it against like Barghest once they've been built up in case there's a reset. At least you get the damage out. But it can also work really well with Death Wish cards like Goliath, where you get 10 damage out onto an opponent, but also trigger this Death Wish of pulling out your opponent's best card. So really great way to set up for a later Ozril pull from that same Goliath. Just kind of depends on how you feel. Then we've got Imlerith's Wrath for awesome damage as well, because there's so many real tall cards in this deck. Beast getting up tall, Aparian Phantom getting up tall, being just really good options. One thing I will say, Penitent is going to summon to a random allied row, so the Aparian Phantom can get summoned to ranged row. You can miss out on that 3 damage, but again, he boosts himself by 1 point every turn you don't do something with it. So every time you don't use that order. So going to range roll, still get that boost. Still quite valuable. Naglfar is just unparalleled for consistency. I think this is the best tutoring card out of all of the decks. It's only 9 provisions. It's 2 random gold cards. Doesn't care if it's monsters or not. This is a devotion deck, but it doesn't need to be. You can change things out. There's nothing in here that really runs devotion except for Winter Queen. We just want her Thrive, but we're using Red Riders here for the Frost. I find it to be good punish. Much cheaper than Ardgaith, and just gives you a little bit more flexibility. Also just want to point out, what with these birds' feet on this horse right here, right? Somebody explain that to me. All the rest of them are regular horses, but this one's got additional, I don't know. Leave that in the comments. Anyway, if you have any questions about this deck, please post them. Join the Discord. Follow on Twitch so we can play this deck more, and you can ask for walkthroughs or tweak it up. All of that good stuff. But I think that it's fairly straightforward. Let's jump into a game. I just didn't... Oh, wait, 1 second. One change we have to make here. Make sure you're using your Siri. Doesn't even matter if you change her up at all. You just want to make sure you're using Siri to get one of these quests here. You have to play 150 games with any Siri outfit, and that is going to trigger the Silver Ziliel. They finally added this so you can hover over and see what you're getting. Obviously, these titles are less meaningful for me than Silver Ziliel. After I got Aiden Zavern, I'm probably not going to change that. Nothing like being an Elven Sage. Things to worry about with this deck. Anytime there's consumes, anytime that there's destroy, boost self by power, beast, Aparian Phantom, resets are the weakness of any monster's faction. But I think there's enough damage output here that enough tweaking that you're able to really get some good value. This also plays better than most decks against Lockdown. It would be nice to get that extra 9-point unit and the extra Thrive proc, but not wholly necessary. We are on blue coin here, so predatory dives aren't superbly interesting to me. Instead, I'd rather get out these Larvas. We'll use this Red Riders to get out our Winter Queen once we're ready. But Alpha Werewolf also very good. He got buffed this season, so basically this deck is just showcasing some of these new changes that we're seeing on deck. We'll keep the Wild Hunt Rider, since we get to bring that out right away, and then Imlerith with this Ikran is also very good, so we should be able to get out all of our tutoring except for Naglfar, and hopefully our opponent reconnects, that way we don't have to miss this one. But yeah, we don't really need to cycle anything back here. We're just going to go ahead and get out our Wild Hunt Riders. Then we'll probably just cycle up slowly with our Andregalarves. We can use Imlerith to get rid of this Ikran, boost himself up to 15 points. Obviously quite valuable. But yeah, I think this is a pretty fun deck. Pretty straightforward. If you're a newer player, they do recommend monsters, and I think this deck really showcases why that is. Just really easy to play with. One thing we do want to keep aware of are the boosting cards. Kahir coming out quick and early. Very interesting play from our opponent. I quite like that idea of getting Kahir. We're going to go Spawn Frost on both enemy roads for 2 turns. Purely so that we can get out our Winter Queen. He's going to get boosted every time one of our units gets boosted. So this Thrive proc is going to be a little bit annoying here. We would get 3 damage out of this Aparian Phantom. So we're going to go ahead and set it down. He's going to get boosted by 2, which means he will take the damage at the beginning of the next turn. And then we'll use Aparian Phantom to finish him off. There's the possibility. Oh, that was miscalculated. Obviously, Aparian Phantom is going to get boosted by 1. So we're just kind of run into that problem here this turn. Not a whole lot we can do about that. We have gotten out several of our tutors here. Seeing Vincent come down onto this Aparian Phantom makes sense. Our opponent isn't getting any more boosts this Magna Division, so I think we're just going to go ahead and pass here. We got out our tutors. Anything we do is basically going to boost that Kahir by enough points that it's not going to be worthwhile to keep him. Notably, the play we really want to make using Imlerith on this Ikran is going to fall really flat, but seeing Kahir out so early gives us some flexibility. Pardon my water drinking skills. Yeah, I think we're okay with this situation. I don't really feel the need to keep Red Riders against a Nilfgaard lockdown deck where we've already seen 2 aristocrats come out. 3, I guess Kahir is also an aristocrat. We don't need double Barghest here. We'll see if our opponent decides to go for the bleed here. And as I mentioned before, we do want to make sure there's at least 1 7-point card for the Penitent to target with that Death Wish. It is quite valuable. This doesn't really get any units onto the board for us, so I think here we'll actually just go ahead and go with... well, we have enough time. We have time. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that. We were at 9 cards, so the next card plays for free anyway. Our opponent takes the pass. Here we kind of get to decide what we want to do. I think technically Andregalarvas are less valuable than Goliath, but I think we want to get our Goliath into our graveyard. I also don't want this Death Wish getting triggered by our opponent using in 3rd round, because we're not pulling out something they don't want to use at that point. There is a chance that they're going to try to tutor something, but in a lockdown deck, that's really kind of quite rare. Predatory Dive, I think it's probably more valuable than Red Riders, although Red Riders could be really nice to maintain our dominance. I don't think it's quite as valuable. Here we can use Red Riders with Andregalarve, giving us some good potency. I do kind of want to keep these consumes. Since we have Immolatus Wrath, I think we can go ahead and get rid of Predatory Dive. I do want to keep the consumes in the event that our opponent opts to play poisons. Here, let's go ahead and just get started with our thrives. We'll start just working our way up. One good thing about these Cyclops is, too, you can use this Force of Nature, drop down a 9-point Woodland Spirit, and then use your Cyclops, destroy that 9-point unit, and do damage to your opponent all at once. It can be very effective. First turn, I would have maybe used that Kahir, the Cyclops against the Kahir. Here we can do that, so we'll let it get boosted up just a little bit. But the other option we have here, just go ahead and use our Imlerith, consume this Icaron, draw a card. Obviously that Kahir goes up by a ton of points, but what we can just go ahead and do is use Imlerith's Wrath. There's no way our opponent can just destroy him unless they're using like a Geralt. But seeing Oneiromancy, seeing Vincent, seeing a Seer, I am a little doubtful that our opponent has such a valuable card. So here instead we're just going to take our time. There's a better than 0% chance that our opponent can resurrect him, but we can always use Cyclops onto Imlerith for 15 points of damage. So here, just go ahead and use Imlerith's Wrath. Clear off that Kahir. Again, maintaining our consumes in the event that our opponent does opt to play poisons, which they do. Not entirely surprising. We do want our big units to play onto the melee row just because we are getting that Thrive proc. Now here, Werecat does play for a Thrive onto these 2-point units. There aren't a lot of units on that row though, and I do anticipate my opponent to row stack. So instead we're just going to go for Beast. We'll miss that Thrive proc onto the 3s, but that's not a really big deal. We have this Cyclops that could work. Lots of flexibility. If I can, I'd like to consume the Joachim or destroy it using this Cyclops. But here we're going to see locks and poisons come down all at once, so we have to kind of decide what is most valuable to us. Again, that poison coming down onto Imlerith was not terribly surprising, but seeing this double play of aristocrats all in one round is devastating for us. Again, something I really have a problem with this scenario especially is that you can double play those aristocrats using Joachim or Roderick. I find it a little unsettling. Here our Joachim is taking some bleed. Our opponent could replay it using a coup de grace. That being the case, I think we're going to go ahead here and use a Bargus to consume. Now, the 2 poisons have been played out from scenario, so there's no way for them to get double poison in a round. So that's why I'm comfortable playing 1 Bargus. It also gives us a 9-point target with this Cyclops. Also, in addition to that, provides us with an opportunity to use Werecat twice in a round, so long as we can get dominance. But here I think we're going to use it for the damage. Just because we're getting rid of an opponent engine. And we should retake dominance at the end of this turn. I think I'd like to get out my Werecat and my Alpha Werewolf before we drop down this Bargus. I think we're going to see this Beast get poisoned. That's okay. We do miss a little bit of value there, but we have retaken dominance. So we can consume again. The only problem is that this Barghest is probably going to be the target of any remaining poisons our opponent may have. Hoping that those Fangs were the last of them, though. But there's a possibility that they're still retaining morale. Here we're going to just go ahead and use our Alpha Werewolf. This immunity does come in great usefulness against cards like this cow. But another option we could have, you could just consume this cow. But since we're able to protect this Barghest, I'm okay with this scenario. I'd like to keep the option of consuming the Werecat for the additional point. We can also allow our opponent to poison the Werecat with this next Rot Tosser. Like, I kind of anticipated this might be the case. This is kind of a weird choice here, forcing me to choose between these two units. I don't really mind. I think we will preserve the 4 points. This actually lines up quite nicely for us. And just because I don't want that poison to trigger, we're just going to go ahead and... Well, let's see. If this drops at 6 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we do get one more boost here. So I think we're actually just going to hold. Lots of poisons. I think morale, again, would be potentially the one card I would anticipate giving us some real problems. But if our opponent figured out a way to squeeze Kahir, Oneiromancy, Ball, Morale, and Vincent into a lockdown deck, that would be ridiculous. Crazier things have happened, though. Oh, Cupbearer. Cupbearer's the one other option here. I would have played that onto the Andrega Larva personally, but everybody gets to make their own choices. Here we go ahead and consume the Ikran, proc all these Thrives, and then we can consume this Werecat and repeat that damage to melee row. Getting really good value out of these cards. We do set up for a really vulnerable Barghest. Obviously, if he had like a Yurden or something, we'd run into some real problems. But here, the opponent using lockdown, just not having enough juice. Not enough gas in the tank. In lockdown deck like this one we just saw, I think the opponent really needed to make better use of a bleed in round 2. I think they just missed their draws. We're a little frustrated with that. So, lockdown not the best deck to show you guys how exactly this deck may work. But I think you're starting to get the idea. Let's go ahead and jump into one more game here. We are on week 9, so if you are just joining back in, note that it is a new week. Weeks still start on Tuesday nights, but they also are refreshing the season on Thursday, so there's a little bit of awkwardness there. And then today, we're anticipating some announcements on what's coming in the patch for tomorrow. So just note that we will be covering that. As soon as that information comes out, I will release updates.
Yield and save me some time.
Very interesting. I don't think I've ever played against a Leshen deck or a Woodland Spirit Force of Nature deck. I was trying to go for something a little bit different from what I'd been seeing. We actually do get Naglfar this game, so that's kind of nice. We have Penitent. I think I'm going to put back in Beast just because Beast is such a great draw for that. We are on blue coins, so these Wild Hunt Riders are quite nice. Predatory Dive, not really as useful, and we definitely don't need double Wild Hunt. Now our Penitent is kind of the perfect draw for Beast, as we did get our Werecat. We did miss Ikran here. That's a little bit unfortunate. And we do have to choose between 2 gold cards. So I want to try to get out some of our cards first before using Naglfar. So that all being the case, let's go ahead here and just get out our Wild Hunt Riders. Again, this is one of my favorite plays to make. Just make sure you get out that great thinning, plays for 8 points, and also sets up our Cyclops for 4 points of damage if our opponent plays down Andrega Larva as one example. And these cards are kind of dead. They're not really worth anything, so 4 points of damage is 4 points of damage, I guess. I don't know a better way to describe that. One question here might be, okay, how much do I value my opponent's cards? How much do I value the passive boost here? And I find that this is a great trade. Personally, I retain 4 points on the board. Using removal against a Parian Phantom is no longer really worth much. And here, this lines up perfectly for our Cyclops because we're going to be losing value with that bleed. So we'll just go ahead, use Cyclops here, and go ahead and kill off that Andrega Larva. Again, one card I think that just really doesn't get as much appreciation as it deserves, because you can so tactically trade points with great precision. Lots of thrives coming down from our opponent here. I do want to try to get this Penitent off with Beast, I think, this round. Having a passive point engine would be pretty helpful. I also like to get out my Winter Queen. Our opponent here is playing all to one row for some reason. And that's fine, but we're going to go ahead and get out Penitent now. Lying greedy fools. No, that's Operator, but they do sound very similar. Probably have like a similar speaker. This is a bit of a dangerous play, in my opinion. You don't really know exactly what I'm carrying since I played a Cyclops. That's pretty dangerous. That being the case, let's go ahead and get out Red Riders. I'd like to see my opponent use a Consume a little prematurely. I think that would be really helpful for us. And well, almost certainly this Icaron is going to take 4 points of damage unless our opponent plays something else to consume. I do love this combo, and Andrega Queen is really underappreciated. The only reason I haven't included it in this deck is twofold. One, we have Imlerith to target our Icaron, which I find a little bit better because you get to draw a card. And the other, plus it also sets up for his Wrath, which is just quite nice. But the other reason why is because our 7-point card targets for Penitent, I want to keep focused as like truly valuable plays, and I find that Andrega Queen coming out does get this barricade boost of 2 with those 2 spawned drones, and that's just not quite valuable enough for me. So that's why I've personally avoided using it. Here we're gonna go ahead using Andrega Larva. And I think we are out of reach as far as dominance goes, so we're just going to go ahead and take the pass. Our opponent might decide to pass. They don't. They actually play the Matahori. That was a little bit of a misplay on my side, going deeper and deeper into this round without much to show for it. Here I think Werecat actually is going to play really well. We can get off and kill these drones, and then we'll set up for a kill of the other units played there. But I think we can take a little bit of time with that. Let's instead use our Barghest here to consume this Penitent. Getting out Striga was another... that's one of those cards. Maybe I should swap Striga for Andrega Queen, because at least Andrega Queen does get 2 points of value. So that's very unfortunate for us. Here we're just going to go ahead and use this onto our Barghest. Here we go. Lots of drones to the melee row. This is perfect. We're going to wipe off this armor with Werecat, so this plays really well for us. And it procs our thrives. So now we're into just trading cards with our opponent. They have a little bit more value going for them right now, but we are going to just take this. That was a great win. We got out some excellent tutoring with the Wild Hunt Riders and with Winter Queen. Some very poor tutoring with Penitent, but tutoring nonetheless. Now here we're just kind of looking for other cards. I do like to play Naglfar earlier than later, so we will try to get this one off. It looks like a pretty good setup for us. And Drago Larvae I like to save for final round, I think. So I think we will go ahead and finish redrawing. This looks like a pretty good hand. So here we're just going to go ahead and use Imlerith. Just guarantees our Ichor into our graveyard. Granted, if our opponent is playing with Ozrel, we could run into some problems. But I think we'll be okay. Now we're going to get two options. I'm fine playing Beast or Goliath, and I would let Imlerith's Wrath going to the top of the deck would be a decent option as well. But I think here we'll play Drago Larvae. Next round, we can actually go ahead and consume our opponent's Ichor, but that doesn't really do us a whole lot of good because we have one in our graveyard as well. So let's go ahead and use Naglfar here. This is kind of a tough choice. We could clear off Beast, which will be worth 10 points, and is a better passive engine, and it kind of guarantees synergy with Imlerith. Plus, we get the 10-point Goliath for next turn. So I think that's probably the best choice here. Our opponent now is going to struggle to keep up with points. There's part of me that would like to get out an Drago Larvae just for the predatory dive aspect. But here I think we can go ahead and take a pass. Our opponent is going to have to play something like Ozrel in order to catch back up. This Hyperion Phantom will do 3 damage though, so it will bring him down to 12. So he would just have to make an 8-point play in order to stay in this game without having to go down a card. But here I find this to be really pretty valuable play. We got some good tutoring. Guarantees a better value. Goliath coming out, that being also an excellent play from our opponent, but kind of a forced play, really high tempo card being played suboptimally here. So now we can play our Goliath as we see fit. I'd like to keep this predatory dive. Now we're basically just looking at our other 3 cards and thinking to ourselves, no, these all look good, but not phenomenal. The one card I would like to maybe see would be that Cyclops. Bargus not really having any other synergy here, so him just playing for 5 points doesn't sound like the best thing for me. This is a much better option. I think we're pretty happy with this. One thing to note with Alpha Werewolf, it is an immune card, so cards like the Beast are going to be able to benefit from it passively, but Cyclops, even if you play it next to him, will not be able to target that Alpha Werewolf. So just something to keep in mind. Now, I do expect some drones to come out, so this is probably the best value we're going to see. We'll just make sure we're getting those out. That is 4 points of value since our opponent almost certainly has something to consume there. We are missing Werecat, which would have been really powerful here, but that is what it is. Here I think we'll go ahead and get out our Drago Larva. Then we can get out our Beast. Natural Selection does play pretty well against Drago Larvae here. And again, this Woodland Spirit really doesn't do us much good, other than providing a 9-point boost target for Beast. I think here we're probably going to see Kikimor Queen, which is pretty good. This is a great play. Hard for us to keep up with that tempo, to be honest. Here I think we'll just go for Alpha Werewolf. And there's a 7-point card here, so Beast is going to still go up at the end of this turn. Now I think we'll drop down our Force of Nature. Actually, let's go ahead and go for the Osriel. I think he wants his Osriel to ranged to consume his own card, so let's play ours to melee. Go ahead and consume his Ikran. It gives our beast a little bit more boost. Hammer Rack is coming down. Only 4 points of value onto this beast. Not terrible, but not great. It also will set him on an odd power so that he will get boosted by a significant amount, actually. And here I think we're just going to play out our Goliath. We're just kind of improving our options. I do think that this Force of Nature would play really well with Kikimor Queen. Here just trying to show you guys a new option for a new deck. Our opponent playing really well here, getting a lot of value, triggering both thrives, getting a lot of boost. I think they played exceptionally well. So honestly, probably his deck's a little bit more competitive. If I was to be honest with you guys, I think that using the Defender with Kikimor Queens and the Caranthir, plus the Osriels, is just really, really a lot of value. I'd really recommend playing something like that if you're looking for something competitive. If you're looking for something that has a little bit more removal to keep up with some of the other, and that's for mirror matches, mind you, because if you're playing against somebody else, and here we are, this goes up by 1 point, so we'll keep him. The highest unit right now is there, so let's just go ahead and use this on Woodland Spirit. And that can be helpful just to maintain dominance. As you just saw there, we were able to retake dominance at the end. Not enough juice in the tank, though, to get us over the finish line. So if you want to beat Nilfgaard, this is a good deck. If you want to win against win against mirror matches against monsters, this might not be the best deck for you. But we're here to show you honest reviews of honest decks and give you some new thoughts and ideas as we are waiting anxiously on bated breath to see what this new season is going to bring. Personally, I'm hoping for some serious love for Witchers. Neutral cards getting a huge rework. That would be fantastic. But we will see. So tune into the Gwent Open today to see the final matches played. And until next time, get out there and keep on Gwenting.